Hi everybody, nobody's on yet. I'm going to add Brian. Okay. Hi Brian.
How's it going?
It's going good. One sec, let me turn my volume up. Cheers.
Cheers. I don't even know where my angle is right now.
Welcome everybody to our third live with Nikki and Brian. We're really excited about today's guest. We're taking a little bit of a different approach. We're going to learn some new things today. And we're very excited to have Lori with us. She is, I'm going to read her title because it's quite long because she's very impressive. She is the co-director of the Behavioral Health Core at the NIH, where she coordinates the psychosocial support and research program within the pediatric oncology branch. So we're very excited to talk to her today. And yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and invite her on. Brian, do you have anything you want to say before we get started?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a really exciting kind of conversation we're about to have with Lori about, a topic that we don't get to touch on too much with our teenagers and really ourselves as mental health and kind of how teenagers and how you and I both dealt with this terrible disease growing up. And so I think it's going to be an interesting conversation and really hopefully kind of deep and impactful.
Yeah, definitely. Very excited. Okay. Lori, I'm going to go ahead and add you to the conversation. Okay. Just sent her an invite. We'll give it a second. Hi, Lori.
Lori, hi.
Hey there.
How is it going?
It's going. I got on here, so that was a big step.
Yes. I know. Technology, right?
We're off to a good start already.
I know.
Oh,
Well, we're very excited to have you. Let's kind of get started with getting a little bit of a background on you and how you work with teenagers kind of as they battle disease and go through treatment and kind of manage the realities of day-to-day life. But actually, I kind of combined that with the first. If you want to give us a little bit of more background on yourself first and then kind of dive into that, that would be great.
sure. Well, my name is Lori Wiener, and I work at the Pediatric Oncology Branch at the National Cancer Institute, which is one of the institutes in the National Institutes of Health. I know it's gotten a lot of attention in the last 2 years. And my position is I'm coordinator or director of what's called the Psychosocial Support and Research Program in the Pediatric Oncology Branch of the National Cancer Institute. And what that means is that I do both clinical work and research, which is actually a beautiful marriage because what I hear and I learn from our patients and their family members helps me to identify things that we don't have answers for yet. And then I get to write studies and carry out studies and learn what we don't know. And from that, bring it back to the clinical setting or develop new resources that I could then make available mostly for free for the rest of the world. So it's a wonderful place to be. And our patients and families come from all over the world. So meet people, from all walks of life. And, my area of specialty is probably adolescents and young adults.
So how did you get into this? How did you end up in this role?
Well, that's a great question and probably a lot longer than this is going to be. I'm from New York. That will come out in no time whatsoever. Always worked with, well, actually, I thought I was going to start off in working in legal aid, and that's where I started and to become a judge of a family court. But I then got my clinical degree in social work back about 3 decades ago or more, and was doing a lot of clinical work in private practice, and just didn't feel like it was there was just something missing. from that, and just seeing patients in and out every day. And I took a position at a large hospital in New York City called Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where I really got trained in psycho-oncology, and came to the NIH to actually help start a pediatric HIV program back in the day when there were no treatments for children with HIV, and did both clinical work and research. And fortunately, we were able to approve many drugs for children with HIV, and went back into pediatric oncology.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, seriously, that's so amazing. So I know you said, which I think it's awesome that you're able to work kind of in the research and then be able to apply that to patients and families that you work with directly. How do you and your program specifically assist teens and young adults with their quality of life? What are the coping mechanisms that you share with them? Kind of any common traits that you may see between them, and kind of any information you can give us there.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. And, everyone is so very different. So I would say the very first thing I do is try to get to know each patient that comes through the door. What their life is like before cancer. It's, what their hopes and dreams were, and how cancer has now interrupted those. And to be able to learn about how they coped in the past with other difficult times in their life. And what really worries them the most at this point in time, is that sometimes it's more than themselves, or maybe really worried about their family or their friends, the side effects, their body image, what life could be like through all of this. And then to be able to help to normalize that, because there's nothing normal about being an adolescent and young adult and being diagnosed with cancer. And to be able to help them to be able to be the best version of themselves through this whole entire experience. And you asked about common traits. I think one of the first, along with worry, is a lot of frustration at your age, and it's just your parents and medical providers are telling you what to do and how to do it at a time when the last thing you want in your life is to be told how to be able to do things, and to be dependent on people more so than you've ever wanted to be, especially when your friends and your peers may be leaving for college or working, or seemingly to be going on with their lives in a way that you can't at this point in time. And for many, when their friends and other people in their life are talking about issues that are very different from their own lives, they're thinking about being close to a medical center, or what their counts are doing, or what their scan results may be, that could make you feel very alone. And so, really being able to connect them to their values, what's most important to them, and to other people. I think also important for this age group is that you're really kind of out of place, because you could be in a pediatric setting, because you may have a pediatric type disease, and you have little kids screaming and running up and down the hall and playing when that's not the mood you're in. Or you could be put in an adult unit and have a roommate, somebody who's 2, 3, 4 times your age. And that's also something you can't relate to, especially on an inpatient unit when you first start waking up at midnight and their lights are out and they're waking up at 6 a.m. There's just a disconnect.
We laugh a little bit there because...
Yeah, we're laughing because I don't know if you know, but I was in the adult ward and Brian was in pediatrics.
I was through the pediatrics at 19. And so, yeah, it was little kids running around every day. I was shot with some Nerf guns occasionally just in my hospital room. It was chaos at 24/7, but it was fun and everybody was, great. And I think that was one of the ways Nikki and I were able to connect in the beginning, to talk about our experiences and how they were so similar yet so different.
So different. Right.
Yeah.
And so you're at that in-between age, and being able to find a way to be able to meet both of those. And so that's why, we affectionately call adolescent young adult AYAs. I don't know if that's an expression that you hear, but there's more and more programs across the country and really around the world that are developing AYA programs right now. So they're, places where you can meet other people your age and people that you could be able to relate to and have similar interests that you have, and similar time zones, in terms of, just even your when you sleep and when you wake. I think the other part I think when you're asking about some common traits, it's also for families. And I don't know if families listen in on here, but for parents, they just want to help their kids. And it's beyond looking for medical treatments, because they're going to do their best to find you the very best medical treatments, but it's also how to support you, how to help you cope. And then brothers and sisters whose lives are also interrupted, right? By all of this, and also really worried. And friends who don't not necessarily know how to be the best friend, who may just want to talk about anything else when you want to talk about what's going on, or you may not want to talk about what's going on. You want to talk about something else, and how to make that bridge, and how to be able to find a way to just really communicate with one another. And so that's my role, to be that person when most people can walk out the door, the person who's walking in, the person who's going to be part of that journey with you from the first day you walk in, through the ups and the downs, and, and the fun parts of your life and the really devastating parts of your life. And just to be able to have that person who's not necessarily on the quote unquote medical team telling you what medications to take or not to be able to take, but just to get to know you, all of you. And to be through that journey. And that journey continues past the end of the last treatment.
Yeah.
And so for some people, I've really found that they cope fine, fine through, they do all the things that they need to do, but then it's afterwards they feel like they're falling apart. And why now? That's actually in many ways good coping, right? So you got through the things that you needed to, but it's all of a sudden, it's like post-trauma, and it can be. You remember things that took place. You may have lost a friend, or other people. Things just are recollections that are just coming back to you, or it's just not that easy to snap back to a life that you had before. Your friends have changed. You have definitely changed from the things you've experienced that other people your age have not. So it's being able to find a way to absorb all of that, to accept all of that, to grow from all of that, and then to be able to move on with the knowing that you're going to be followed probably for the rest of your life for parts of the treatments that you've gotten. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Absolutely. And I think something that I dealt with personally was like, and I'm still kind of obviously dealing with stuff with my treatment, but for me, it's been such a long span that I've kind of dealt with my health that from like kind of being okay. And then like through college, I was kind of like, nobody cares about their health. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's tracking. Like, I was taking so many pills. I used to have to go get scans, like at an off-campus hospital, as I'm sure Brian had to do as well because he was in college. Like, and it's just things like I was technically like kind of out of it, but like still, I still get scans all the time, and it's like so frustrating. And then just seeing friends or random people that don't have to deal with that, and you're like, wow, I've dealt with all of this. It's just like mentally such a lot to kind of go through. So having somebody there to be able to talk to these AYAs, teens, young adults, and their siblings and the parents, that's just incredible. Do you talk to them technically like individually? Do you talk as a group or both?
Both. But it's really up to you.
Yeah.
But there's going to be times where you just really just need that one-on-one. There's other times you may just want to meet with one of your friends. There's other times you just like, please just talk to my mom, or just talk to my dad, or talk to my brother or my sister, or my teacher, just help them understand, or I'm worried about them. So sometimes it's in a group. One of the groups that we started recently is photo voice groups. So it's not, you don't want to necessarily be in this, talking about, your feelings and your problems all the time, but we have short-term groups where you bring in, the group comes up with the themes, and it may be, for example, this week, self-care, and everyone takes pictures of things that are going to be self-care for you. And you upload your pictures and tell your stories about your pictures. And then you come up with a theme for the next week. And sometimes it's music, and people bring in their music and their songs, and you listen to them. But it's a way that you just do get to be able to connect with other people who you could, understand their lives. They kind of get, they get you. But you also learn new coping areas, new coping skills, or just be able to meet people in a safe way. So you just know that you're not alone. And I know you asked about social support. So my experience, and from my research as well as from my clinical experience, is that the people who tend to do the best are the people who have both worlds. They could be able to allow both of their worlds for the passion of what you want to be able to do with your life, the things that are really important, your friends and your family that you have outside of the cancer world, but not running away from the cancer. And I want nothing to do with this ever again. But also not letting cancer control you and let cancer be your entire identity. So for people who just absorb everything in the cancer world and leave behind the part of themselves is also not helpful. So being able to find both and to be able to accept both. So it may be, you're pursuing a degree in teaching and you're working with that, but you may volunteer, for a few days a year at a cancer camp, or you're doing what Brian and Nikki, what you're doing. This is amazing. Reaching out to other people, like just being able to take your experience and help other people who have similar experiences. So it's being able to find that balance and also be able to teach some coping skills, that's really important.
And so, you brought up a couple great points, and I just wanted to kind of piggyback. And for me and personally, one of the things you said was wanting to run away from this and never think about it again. And that was really kind of my mindset. I had finished, I guess, treatment, about 3.5 years after I started, and I wanted nothing to do with any of this ever again. And, maybe a couple of years after, I ran into, Nikki's mom, Sharon, at a Leadership Fairfax event, and it was the right place at the right time for me to get involved and kind of realize, looking back, whatever, at these last 3 years and kind of reflecting on what I, went through and what I did. And that was a really powerful moment for me to kind of just sit there, and it was almost cathartic just to sit there. And, I eventually got to speak for a little bit at the first, wine dinner I attended, and just writing down my feelings. And just, I went for, maybe 30 pages of just gibberish that I wrote, but I had never kind of put everything like down on paper what I was feeling. And that's one of the things that, as I've been volunteering with the foundation for a couple of years now, especially the teenage boys, I try to connect with just a little bit more and try to reach out to the ones, especially talking to their parents and telling them, like, hey, just because you're a boy doesn't mean you can't be vulnerable. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I lashed out, and I now, looking back, would have loved to have had a role model, or somebody to look up to and speak to that went through this, that got through this, that came out on the other side and came out stronger. And I think that's one of the things that I, really value in trying to, work with Bite Me Cancer, is really trying to be that person for somebody that I didn't have. And it's not that I couldn't have had that person. I didn't want it. And I'm trying to help people realize that I don't think that's the right way. And so just listening to kind of what you're saying, it's spot on. And makes me think, it's incredible, like, but night and day of where you can be and where you can go, but just the resources that are available to help you get through this, because you might think you're alone in this journey, but you're really not.
Yeah, that's so important, Brian. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that every day is different too. So there's some days, you're just going to find yourself, on that web, looking up every single side effect, every possibility, everything you wanted to know. And there's other days you want nothing to do with it. And that's okay too. And to be able to accept that that's where you're at that point in time. So people are really lucky to have both of you, and to be able to have this avenue to be able to listen to safely. And some things I'll be able to resonate with, and other things they won't, but it's a great gift that you're giving people.
Well, thank you. Well, it's a great gift that you're giving people as well. And I feel like having the opportunity to talk to you, like, as a patient, for me, even probably now, would have been so helpful. And it's just such a great outlet. I think that, the idea of mental health with people going through cancer and people going through chronic illness and disease, you're so focused on the actual disease itself that sometimes you forget to kind of be able to talk through what's going on mentally as well. And it's kind of put off until the end. Like, for me, I didn't really want to talk about it. I was like fine, right? I was like, okay. But afterwards, they're kind of pushed towards life with cancer, and they have like different people you can talk to and different things there. But at that point, I was kind of like, I'm okay. Like, I don't really need to talk to somebody. But it probably would have been good for me to talk to somebody then and mostly during, because I seemed okay. But I mean, looking back now, it's been like 10 years. It definitely wasn't. I was just kind of like masking and obviously put all my energy into this foundation, which I'm so glad that I did. But there's definitely huge positives to having somebody like you there, being able to touch on and bring up things that you're probably not thinking about. I wasn't thinking about it. Now looking back, I recognize, but it's just so great what you're doing. It's amazing, I think.
I absolutely agree.
And you both were doing everything that you knew what to do and how to do just to get through each day. You know, you're doing the best that you can, and it's never too late. You know, people say, well, it's, I had cancer 5 years ago. I should be over it by now, so
Yeah.
That's when sometimes it really does hit. And it's when it's time to be able to process all you've been through and what you got through and what you did survive and what you did witness, not only for yourself or the other people around the floor, but also just what you witnessed in your own family and being able to process that. And sometimes there's resentment for people, that you really expected to be there for you. And then there's people that came out of the woodwork. You never expected to be there for you. And they were just angels, So it's a lot to process. And you're right. You don't need to be alone, and you don't need to do it alone. But the time is right.
And one of the most important things I like to tell families and people that I get to talk to through the foundation is celebrate the small victories, celebrate everything you can, embrace every single moment that you get to have, because while the journey may be sucky, you've got dealt a pretty crap hand, excuse my language, but it really is something to experience, and the community that you get to be a part of and rally around. And it's the worst community you ever want to be a part of. It's the best community you never want to be a part of. And that, and the people, the support and everything around you, but really celebrating all the small victories and the small moments. And because it's not great, but it's special. I can't really put it into words, sometimes now thinking back on it, but it's something. I don't know. It kind of gives me a little chills sometimes thinking about it sometimes still. But celebrate everything, enjoy it, enjoy the moments that you have with your family, your friends, because, I don't know. I'm going on a rant here. I'm sorry.
No, it just gives you like a different outlook, I think.
Yeah.
Something I tell people all the time is that you can't get today back. You could spend your days, worrying about yesterday, or worrying about, or being upset about yesterday and worrying about the future, but that's ruining today. So even when you're having those scans, the scanxiety, some people will start freaking out weeks in advance, and they're just ruining their days. And they're just like, schedule a day before your scans. That's my day to worry. But you're wasting all those other days beforehand, because no matter how much you worry, it's not going to change the scan results.
Yeah.
You might as well, being able to, schedule that breakdown for the days. That's your day. Yeah. Go ahead, go freak out. But, before that, you can't get those days back. So
my mom always says worry is a waste. So something that I used to do during surgeries even was I literally would not think about it at all until the second they were about to give me like the laughy gas. And then I would like freak out completely. And then I would be sedated. And then I would be rolled away. So that is something that I did for all my surgeries since the first one. But yeah, well, thank you.
Well, can I just kind of put a bow on all of this, Lori, if we could? Like,
yeah.
What's the best advice you would give to any teenagers that are listening here now? Hopefully there are. Hopefully we can share this out to a lot of them that, are going through this and are kind of facing a crossroads. They're feeling depressed. They're feeling anxious. What's the best advice, that you could give them to how to kind of help them get to the next day, to kind of help them get through today and really see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a complicated one because everyone is so different. But, you know, one, know you're not alone. Two, make connections. It's, you know, it's hard sometimes to be able to reach out. It doesn't matter who you reach out to. It's not, you don't have to reach out to a therapist. You don't have to reach out to the chaplain. You don't find someone who you feel like you could be able to relate to. And know that today may be a really sucky day, but that doesn't mean tomorrow will be as well. And don't believe all your thoughts. I mean, that's, you know, it's, we do so much in our mind with our black and white thinking, you know, it's kind of like when you were in school and if you were taking, let's say, a physics test and you did badly, you convince yourself, I'm going to do badly on every test from now on. You know, I can't do well. You know, don't believe all your own thoughts. Just because today may be a difficult day doesn't mean that every day is going to be. Maybe because this scan has not been good, that doesn't mean that every scan is not going to be a good one. And find gratitude. You know, just what you were talking about. Even at the end of the most horrible day, there may be something at the end of that day you can go back to that you could be grateful for. It may be the smile that a person gave you. It may be something that actually didn't taste horrible for that particular day, or you didn't happen to throw up that day. And just to be able to know you're here, pinch yourself, feel it. It may hurt just to be able to say, I'm here. I'm very much alive. As much as I'm worried about everything, I'm still here. And tomorrow is another day. And learn that there are new coping skills that you could learn that's going to take you way past cancer, that you're going to need to use for the rest of your life, and they will come in handy for the rest of your life. This is a good time to be able to learn those. But embrace yourself for what you are able to get through, and to be able to just, you know, be grateful that you have people like you that are here, that you could be able to reach out. And that there's something for us all to learn from all the worst of experiences. And also to be able to grow from, to make tomorrow so much better than they would have been. And you're going to be better off than so many other people your age, because you've learned lessons that most people never have to learn or don't learn until much later in life. But you've learned that. You've learned those and how to be able to get through the hardest times.
Absolutely. Thank you.
What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Lori. This was such a powerful.
Thank you.
For those watching, this will be up on our Instagram. It'll be up on YouTube and Facebook. So feel free to rewatch it. And Lori, again, thank you so much. Thank you, Brian.
I just want to add one before we head out. Thank you, Lori. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We really appreciate it. One thing real quick. I can't believe we forgot to mention this, Nikki.
Oh, geez.
It actually is Teen Cancer Awareness Week this week.
My goodness. You're right.
So,
I was so right on here. I totally forgot to mention.
So we got right into it. You know, we had a lot, great conversation with Lori, and we totally forgot, but it is Teen Cancer Awareness Week.
This week is Teen Cancer Awareness Week in the state of Virginia. So obviously all we talk about is how teens are underserved in the cancer community, and they get bundled in with age groups that they are not supposed to be in. So on Instagram this week, we're going to be posting some photos. There's some information on our website about teens with cancer, and, just want to raise awareness. It's this week. It's the third week of January every year. So we always try to do a little bit extra during this week, which is why this is this week, even though we forgot to mention it. So yeah, just doing our best to make sure that teenagers know that they are not alone, as Lori said, as we've said every live, and that we are here, and we understand, and we get what you're going through. So,
and a shout out for your bags. They're fabulous, and they're great in the rain. That's what everyone tells. They're waterproof.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Lori. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. And thank you for all your listeners.
Thank you for all you do as well.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Bye.